Hello, my name is Erin Anderson, and this is my annotated bibliography. My topic is in major, so I'm just going to be connecting a couple sources to my major, which is sociology. So I'm just going to start off by going into my first source, which was overcoming the education challenge of poverty in the Mississippi Delta. So, in this article, the authors describe the state of the Mississippi Delta's education system as it related to the implementation of literacy lessons and effective leaders in the classroom. So, with poverty being a leading problem in the everyday lives of those living in this region, this article aimed to demonstrate the benefits of including language and literacy curricula at the forefront of these children's experience with education. Additionally, the researchers found that employing individuals who understood the underlying causes of academic failure resulted in greater success and leadership among students. And just to mention, I did get this source from Vogel Library's search feature. Either I'll use that or ProQuest very frequently. So yes, and then moving to the general connection. So, in sociological and criminological perspectives, among many theories, poverty exists as a main contributor to status-related matters and offenses, such as stealing or drug dealing. And what I mean by status-related offenses, such as drug dealing and stealing. So stealing would be a status-related offense because you are lacking money or an item and you are going out to obtain that. And then drug dealing, you would be drug dealing because you are perceiving that to be your only source of income that is reasonable to you. So society sees the impoverished as a dangerous class with which we should just ignore to increase our profits, and that the poor are a threat to society because those with more power want to increase their social or socioeconomic status to achieve more power or money. And obviously, they can't do that if the poor are taking from the rich or using handouts or things like that, other excuses of that nature. So, what this pattern of thinking that exists within America is failing to understand is that our systems are set up to keep those who are underprivileged underprivileged. Seeing a little step like this being made in one of the poorest regions in America means we're eliminating this setup for failure. And without this, kids would have very few leadership role models and suffer from various forms of discrimination, such as on their grade, where teachers would be giving people a lower grade because of issues the students just really cannot control. And then race, obviously, and language discrimination, because a lot of these people speak Louisiana Creole, which is not English, obviously. And all those things would greatly inhibit learning and future success. This article holds a very special place in my heart. So, this May, I plan to lead a service trip to the Mississippi Delta, actually in the region that I mentioned in this article. So, we plan to build a school and potentially a house during our visit, which would contribute to the growth of their education offerings in the area. And with Louisiana Creole, a French based Creole language being primarily spoken in the region, literacy programs within these schools are a must for their students if they're expected to know English. And this will not only help them learn and retain more in school, but it will improve literacy for their academic career success in the future. So, building a school is just going to be a really exciting way to jumpstart this programs like this. So, it'll be really exciting. And moving on to a class connection. So I know that literacy may not be a major concern for many students at Wartburg. The implementation of programs, education based programs that are inclusive and welcoming to diverse and underprivileged populations should be celebrated. Aside from that, many of my in major peers or people that are in majors similar to mine plan on traveling to the Mississippi Delta for this trip as well. We will all have the chance to serve as leaders for their community and bring an important aspect of change and improvement to all the citizens in the area. So it's going to be really exciting, and I'm really glad to be able to get some of these people involved so they can potentially show their leadership capabilities later down the road when they have the opportunity to lead a service trip themselves. So, kind of just a couple discussion questions. I was just going to ask, what were some programs or rules that were implemented by the influential leaders in your school growing up that benefited those who needed it most? And how did these changes show proper or improper leadership skills with regard and consideration for all of the individuals involved? And now moving on to the second source that I have. So, this article is just a doctoral thesis and a bibliography of a man named Robert Paris Moses, an extremely influential man who led the civil rights movement. And this thesis contributed information regarding the legacy and leadership of Moses, as well as what he did to become successful. Stigmas and misinterpretations of the movement were broken and illuminated by the author of this article, entirely reshaping the way people think about top down and bottom up leadership. So I thought it was pretty interesting. And a general connection I made was that this article discusses Bob Moses, who was a man who led the civil rights movement through his leadership and dedication to the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, otherwise known as the SNCC. And he also led and dedicated himself to many other components that drove the movement as a whole. The civil rights movement is an extremely important component of our society today and is very heavily emphasized through the study of sociology. Clearly, our society recognizes that the problem of racism must improve and that race relations must improve. And as the world's growing leaders, we are at the front line of our current day social movements. So we must learn how to empower those around us, get involved, and initiate change among any group of people. And it's our responsibility as leaders to stand up for the causes we believe in and dedicate our time to understanding how to push a social movement forward. I am extremely passionate about social movements, and I have been supporting as many environmental and diversity driven causes as possible since I first started understanding this concept. And dedicating myself to a sociology degree only furthered my interest. So when George Floyd was killed, only a few blocks away from my childhood home, I knew that this year and that this cause was going to take a lot of dedication. A successful movement leader doesn't ignore anything. They gather others to help support the cause. They give back. They donate to anyone who needs it. They use their privilege to stand up for people who aren't heard. And knowing that I have more than a lot of people puts me in the position to continue doing these things. And I know that if I can't be a successful leader in the business world, I can sure as hell be a leader for the things that matter most to me and to those who aren't being listened to in society. So this is just really an important thing to me, and that's really just why I wanted to include an article like this. And this article also stands for leadership that can be more relevant to our current day society. We spend so much time in class learning about how to be skillful leaders in our career fields or within academics. However, we should be emphasizing social movements in these discussions. Like social movements have the potential to change the world and the rest of our lives and the lives ahead of us and the generations ahead of us. So, if we, as the youngest generation, are prepping to be successful leaders at the forefront of any risky situation, we have to learn how to relay our passion to our peers. We must learn how to get physically and emotionally involved in making our society better. And most importantly, we must learn how to dismantle all of the hurtful arguments that do nothing but tear down our communities because we have seen a lot of that this year, especially. And we need to continue to understand how to combat these comments that just aren't true or aren't backed in research and things like that. So, a couple discussion questions again that I had were, how has this leadership program prepared you for leading social movements? And then again, how could this be improved or what would be a better way to approach this topic? I just feel like this is so so important. And I feel like we really need to look at leadership in more than just a business world sense or a career field sense, because it's a very powerful thing. All right. Well, I am done with my presentation. So I hope you enjoyed what I kind of just had to say, and I hope you can ponder on some of these discussion questions. So you guys have a good evening, and thanks for listening.